Okay, so it's not possible just to sit in the present moment or meditate on a candle or just play around with concepts and come to realize non-duality or the nature of mind. So then what do you have to do in order to gain this kind of meditation that leads to liberation? Well, quite frankly, there's only one thing you can do. And that is you have to find somebody who you have faith in, who you believe has experience and understanding of the mind. And then you have to rely on that person. And one of the fundamental mistakes that Westerners make is that they don't investigate their teachers enough. They don't check them out. And that goes both ways. If a student doesn't check out the teacher and the teacher doesn't check out the student, then it's treacherous. Now, it's not essential that your teacher absolutely has to have realized the nature of mind. But they should at least be learned to some extent, and they absolutely must have compassion. So you can rely on a mistaken object, let's say, and by that gain realization. It is possible if you have faith. But it's far less dangerous to rely on an authentic object of faith. An authentic teacher who can teach you meditation, for example. There are stories in the text about people who have relied on mistaken objects and gained realization. For example, there was this one woman, and her son was a merchant who frequently traveled to India from Tibet. And so the mother was always asking her son, "Oh, please son, next time you go, please get me a relic of the Buddha. And if I have this relic of the Buddha, then I can practice with that. And, I can gain liberation from samsara." And the son traveled many times, and every time he came back, he would forget. He would be busy, working, doing his business, and he would come back. And his mother kept asking him, and she was getting quite desperate. She was getting old, she wanted to practice, and she needed a relic of the Buddha. So the son was traveling back from India once, and he suddenly realized that he'd forgotten again to find a relic. And he thought, "Oh no, what am I going to do? My mother's going to be so upset." And then he saw lying on the side of the road was the skeleton of a dog who had died. And so he extracted one of the teeth from this dog's corpse, and brought it back with him, wrapped it up in a little bit of brocade or something. And then he came back and he said, "Mother, look, here is one of the Buddha's teeth I found." And so she gave rise to great faith. And having great faith, then she practiced with great diligence. And it is said, based on this, that she gained realization. So it is possible to gain realization based on a mistaken object. You have to understand that this woman had incredible faith. And faith is very important. If you believe what they teach, if you think what was taught in the old texts, etc., are just kind of stories, and it's not real, it's not true, then sure. But I think there's a reason these things were taught. Now, you have to remember, she had great faith and she had great diligence. She practiced day and night. But we seem to think that we can just sort of not do very much and suddenly become awakened. So if somebody tells you, there is no self, and you go, "Oh, there's no self. I meditate for 5 minutes and that's it." Now, if that's the case, then, why on earth did the Buddha go through so much hardship? 6 years meditating under a tree, eating a grain of rice a day and a drop of dew from a blade of grass. Why would the Buddha need to do that? The Buddha was taught to be the most superior type of individual. Look at Milarepa, who spent all his time in the mountains, in the snow, in caves, with no food, not even clothing. And Milarepa was also an exceptional being. He was very diligent, very strong, capable individual. So why should it be so easy for us? So as I said, you don't have to have an authentic object to practice on. It's not necessary. If you're very diligent, you have faith, then it is taught that you can gain realization. But I suspect it's very, very rare. If that mistaken object, so you can gain realization with a mistaken object, but if that mistaken object is also, for example, somebody who is badly motivated, either an outright cheat and a charlatan, or just somebody who's looking for fame or money, then there's a great chance by following them, things can go wrong. So it's far more dangerous to follow a mistaken object. However, if you do your homework, you look into things well, and you look for a teacher who you can have absolute trust in, then that is the best way for you to gain realization. But again, as I said before, the sort of teachers who tell you, don't worry, it's okay, you don't have to practice, essentially you're already Buddha. You just sit there quietly and you will become realized. In general, those people are just trying to butter you up. They just want to be liked. They don't want to tell you you've got to work hard. For example, they don't want to tell you, you're a very angry person. And as long as you have anger, then you can't gain realization in the Dharma. Well, that's how it is taught. People with difficult characters, people who are very desirous, very angry, or if you're somebody who is totally averse to studying, for example, sort of somebody who's gripped in ignorance, these things will be an obstacle to you. But the teachers these days, they don't want to tell the students things they don't want to hear. So anyway, my suggestion is, when you are looking to find a teacher, then the ones who tell you, you're fine, you don't have to practice, everything's fine, you're already Buddha, just take it easy, those ones are the ones who are going to lead you astray. Because you won't apply yourself, and you'll waste years of your life on a path that will bring no results. If, however, you meet a teacher who is willing to put themselves on the line, for example, they're willing to risk upsetting you. And the reason why they're willing to do that is because they have compassion, because they want you to improve. They want you to come to realize the nature of mind. But equally, they understand that this is very difficult. Now, if you meet that kind of teacher, then there's a good chance they aren't trying to deceive you, or they don't have negative motivations. For example, fame, fortune, likes on YouTube. Because if you just want people to like you, underlying human desire to be liked, to be famous, if you have these kind of worldly concerns, then you're unlikely to challenge someone else. And so it's almost assured that those teachers who are willing to challenge you are better motivated. They're certainly braver. But it's for you to look into this. All I'm saying is you should shop around. You should look around. Don't accept things just because everybody else is, You might go to a teaching in a convention center, and the teacher has many students or has many followers on YouTube, and people are claiming to have become awakened, gained realization or enlightenment, left, right, and center. If you're in that kind of situation, I suggest that you proceed with caution, because to start off with, awakening isn't easy. It's not simple. If it was simple, why would the Buddha not teach this method? Why wouldn't the Buddha say, no, it's fine, you don't have to work hard. You don't have to give up your negative emotions. You don't have to worry about conduct. Just sit there, you'll be fine. I mean, do we think that the Buddha wasn't compassionate? That these teachers are not compassionate? So if there was an easy way, a shortcut, why wouldn't they just tell everybody to do that? It's not like the accomplished spiritual masters of the past were worse than us. It's not like they had to exert themselves and be really diligent and endure all kinds of hardships because they were kind of stupid or inept. but that somehow we are very capable and can achieve what they achieved in a short space of time with little effort. It doesn't make sense, right? So anyway, please think about that, and please do your research. Look into what's being taught, and especially question what you hear. Test it and see for yourself whether it holds water. Okay, see you next time.